Over the last 48 hours, the U.S.-Israeli campaign against Iran has expanded from precision military strikes into widespread industrial warfare. Combined forces are actively dismantling Iran's civilian industrial base to degrade its long-term capacity to sustain a conflict. In response, Iranian forces downed a U.S. fighter jet over southwestern Iran and launched a barrage of missiles into Tel Aviv. At sea, Iran has maintained a strict blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. The resulting disruption forced the International Energy Agency to authorize a historic market intervention. A localized exchange of fire has rapidly mutated into a global economic crisis, placing heavy financial pressure on the U.S. and its allies. The combined force is now systematically severing Iran's internal supply chains and domestic logistics networks. This map shows the primary missile route to Western launch pads. U.S. strikes destroyed the B-1 bridge, severing the supply chain. The target list has widened. Strikes hit key steel factories and biological research centers around Tehran, including the Pasteur Institute. Striking these civilian industrial centers restricts Iran's internal ability to produce weapons and equip its military over the long term. Despite heavy bombardment, the Iranian military retains significant offensive strike capabilities. On April 3, an Iranian missile barrage bypassed Israeli air defenses to strike 9 distinct sites across Greater Tel Aviv, damaging civilian infrastructure, including the Salvador Central train station. Iranian air defenses concurrently targeted U.S. assets, downing an American fighter jet over southwestern Iran and forcing the pilot to eject. Proxy forces from Hezbollah and the Houthis are coordinating simultaneous rocket fire to maximize psychological pressure on Israeli civilians during the Passover holiday. Even with degraded launch sites, Iran and its proxies retain enough firepower to disrupt Israeli daily life and inflict U.S. military casualties. The war of attrition continues. Iran has weaponized its geography by closing the Strait of Hormuz to U.S. and allied vessels. They selectively permit safe passage only for non-allied ships, such as those flagged to the Philippines. This graph tracks global crude prices since the blockade began. The immediate vertical spike forced the International Energy Agency to authorize an emergency release of 400 million barrels of oil to stabilize the market. This economic shock is Washington's primary vulnerability. The U.S. must now choose between a major military escalation to forcefully open the strait or finding a diplomatic off-ramp. U.S. President Donald Trump publicly stated that American strategic objectives are nearing completion, forecasting an end to the strikes in 2 to 3 weeks. However, indirect diplomatic talks have stalled. Inside Iran, the newly appointed Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei has assumed a highly defiant posture, mobilizing public support for continued resistance. Stakeholders should prepare for sustained volatility in global energy supply chains and heightened risks to U.S. regional assets for at least the coming month.